We'll open public meeting with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will warn everybody, I read the packet in a bunch of different pieces, so probably everything is out of order. Might be extra shuffling. Claims on it.
All right. Hi, everybody. So I submitted the claims auditor biannual report. Do you have any questions? We're kind of down to the slower side of things this time of year as far as, what we order and checks and so on going out. So.
I'm gonna give everybody in line.
Yeah, it's fun. Now we're just gearing up to get ready for graduation. So that's my most exciting time of the year. And I was told today it's indoors this year, so that's really cool. So, any questions, concerns? Is everybody good? All right, well, thank you so very much, and I'll see you all at the end of June.
That's great.
Thank you.
Next up, accepting the CSD, CPSC reports.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Nate. Is there a second? Thanks, Kate. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes of our regular meeting on March 21st. Does anybody have any questions or edits or anything? Or if not, there a motion to approve that.
I'll move.
Thanks, Ray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Greg. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. Were there any extensions? I forgot. Anybody just, yep. Thanks. Sorry, Brent. Treasurer's reports. Any questions on those, or is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thanks, Greg. Is there a second? Thanks, Nate. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And appropriation transfers. Is there a motion to approve the transfers?
Move.
Thanks, Ray. Is there a second? Thanks, Brent. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And on to the warrants. First is General Fund 24. Any questions on anything in here? I just had one question, but I think it's a Holly question. First to the finish on page 11 of 13 in athletics, and then it rolls over to 12. That's a new vendor.
That's probably a Holly question.
Yeah, yeah.
On the
the first page, day automation systems. What does that have to do with? I don't recall seeing the vendor's name.
Oh, they do a ton of stuff for us.
Do secure cameras.
Okay.
Cameras, the door locks.
Okay, I wondered if it was tied in with that.
It is.
Okay.
But that's just a regular ongoing, nothing with capital, right? Or
Correct, yeah, that's how you calculate it.
Is that a maintenance contract?
Maintenance, repairs, I don't know if there's a specific repair that had to be.
I think they added some more cameras, didn't they?
And they did, we upgraded some cameras.
Every year we do a 35K project that is a state 100% state project for schools to maintain their security systems and or add cameras. So Craig works with the automation every year to spend that money to upgrade the cameras that we have. Most of our cameras in the hallways are, there's always improvements. So upgrading the number of megapixels on the cameras and having more coverage for outside areas and things like that. So upgrades.
and the federal funds 9. Short one. And then lunch fund is also 9. And then capital fund 9. Alright. Is there a motion to approve all 4 warrants? Thanks, Nate. Was there a second down there, Brent?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Recognition of visitors. Hi, Neil. Hi, Jess. Hey.
I'll have a short statement after the consent agenda, so that'll be later in the meeting. Thanks.
All right, I'll give my report then for the PTSA. So in April, we had our parents' night out for 3rd and 4th grades. It was a big success. The kids had a lot of fun. Parents were appreciative and it was a good time. So I think we'll do that again. That was great. Also, the elementary school just received some new signage that the PTA paid for. So they have a nice new rug with a new mascot on it, and the banners, they said, are up there now. So they got some of those new things for the elementary school. Some other kind of donations that we gave out were to the Youth Association Baseball, the elementary school March Attendance Award we funded, and a Pages for the Ages donation. I think that's where the kids read at different grades and they have the books for those. Also from the PTSA spring fundraiser, the first grade class was a winner. So we gave them money and they used that to buy new books for their classroom. So that was great. Upcoming things, we have the Daffodil Festival is on Saturday. So we're going to be volunteering to do some help in the morning. And then we also are going to have a booth there to do a little fundraising and awareness of the PTA. So come on out and see us. Teacher Appreciation Week is coming up, May 6th to 10th. So we have things planned for each day of the week to do for the staff in both buildings. And on May 17th, we are holding a Swift and Swoosh, which will be a Taylor Swift dance / open gym to appease all the 5th and 6th graders. And then at the end of May, we have our after prom party on May 24th that we're actively planning and looking for any volunteers who have help. That's my report.
Do you sign, probably not yet, do you have any idea of the participation for the post-prom?
So the sign up will be the same time as prom. So the students are going to sell tickets for both events. So it'll be April 29th to May 10th. So we're going to sell $5 tickets for the after prom party, and then they get their $5 back when they show up. Basically, we want it to be free, but we want to make sure that they don't sign up and not come. So we're trying to do that. So we don't know how many. I've heard there is some buzz around the school. We're actually going to put up a few more posters, and hopefully we get good attendance. So.
Awesome.
Are you doing any raffles as part of the after prom
We are, yep, we plan to have, prizes. We don't have those purchased yet, but we plan to have quite a few gift cards and some hopefully enticing prizes that we can advertise soon.
So you would be more than happy to accept donations towards that?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I have a sheet I've been giving out to some area businesses and we've been sending to some larger businesses. So, yeah, if you have any suggestions, I can give a letter to someone else.
Thanks. We have a handful of considerations tonight. Tis the season for budget and all that. So the first one is the statement of expenditures. There are 3% tax levy increase below our cap of 3.48. Is there a motion to approve the statement of expenditures? Thanks, Ray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Craig. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next up is the affiliated property tax report card, which is the state's required formatting that is in 3.5 font. The least user-friendly thing ever. Is there a motion to approve the property tax report card? Sure. Thanks, Kate. Yeah, I'm really selling it. Is there a second? Thanks, Nate. All those in favor? Aye.
I'm glad I read it online.
Yeah. One of these.
Exactly.
Board petitions and ballot placement. Happy to report that we have 3 candidates for 3 positions. That is exciting. Is there a motion to approve the ballot petition and placement?
I'll make a motion. I don't know.
I'll abstain.
You're gonna abstain.
Yeah,
to see if
right,
you
right.
get-
One of those candidates is.
So Nate made a motion. Is there a second? Thanks, Ray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Me.
I think this is just, you're agreeing with the positioning of the names on the ballot
Yeah.
and the fact that all
I
of
just
the,
don't know what it says in the rules.
Yeah, I think you can
Yeah,
do
it's
that.
fine.
I think you'd have been fine.
I do too,
But I get it.
I feel good.
Yeah, okay.
And then the library proposition placement petition. Let's see, that was. Is there a motion to approve the Candor libraries proposition? Thanks, Nate. Is there a second? Thanks, Kate. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
So this is above and beyond what we approved last year,
Yeah.
which just carries over.
Correct.
Abstain.
Okay.
Sorry, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm throwing things. So now to the consent agenda with a few petitions. Are there any items on the consent agenda that should be pulled out for separate consideration? And if none, are there any questions on the items?
I'd like to ask a question about sports, if I could, on the sports merger on the consent agenda addition with the football. I see we've got varsity modified listed. We don't have enough for a JV program again. As I understand, last year we had quite a few numbers on the modified football team and varsity team combined could have given a JV team. Is that not correct?
That's my understanding. Yeah, that's correct.
So we had the numbers last year to have a team who didn't, and this year we don't have the numbers?
That's what I understand.
I do have the numbers from Holly just because I asked, but I don't know what numbers would be So Spencer there's 22 for varsity total between the schools. There's 30 for modified total between the schools. Then there's additional 17 because Spencer filed it with a JV. So those 17 would be split. But this really is a question for her. Does that make,
No, I don't understand what split means. So you're
so
gonna, so you have 30 kids signed up for modified, and then you're gonna add another 9, so we're gonna have 40 kids on a modified football team? And then almost 30
Almost
plus on
30.
the varsity.
that's
We don't have
what,
enough for a JV program?
that's a Holly
That's a
question.
head scratcher. I just know that last year, there were a lot of kids that were disappointed and upset at modified level. When you got 7th and 8th graders having to play with 9th graders at the modified, there's a huge difference in physical maturity. So 7th graders didn't play a whole heck of a lot.
So Holly's not here. What's our
Right, so-
timeline
right,
and
so
ability
what
to
is-
table something?
You can table it, and we'll, I don't know if they can wait a month though.
Right.
So I'm wondering how we're gonna get it approved on time. I think the right thing to do is to table it though, for right now. And then once I have an answer for you, because it's, even if Holly were here,
Can
I
we,
think it has
can we
to go
approve
back.
it, and then if there's numbers for JV, go back and add a JV program? I mean, I don't know what the rules are.
Yeah, we're looking at,
So,
you
I
have
can
insider.
I can make the
Holly.
call, I just don't wanna make it without,
Yes,
so that's what I
the section
think.
would allow you to do that. It would
Okay,
allow
that's
us
what
to
I was
start
looking
a
for.
JV
So
program if the
let's-
numbers were, yeah.
Let's go ahead and approve the mergers, but with the stipulation that we will, relook at the numbers and consider forming a JV team.
I would just think maybe right now we'd have to, well, actually, they let you merge up to a week into
Yeah,
the
that's
season.
what,
That's
Oh, okay.
actually the rule, so we
Right.
could do that.
And it wasn't a staffing issue with coaches?
The
As a
staffing
reason-
shouldn't be an issue. We have
yeah,
plenty of
we
coaches.
could take care of that, we can take care of that.
I'd love for us to take a peek. I just, in a time where we seem to struggle to get numbers for teams, to then overload teams with kids aren't playing doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right. So, again, I think the short answer is yes. We'll bring it back to the steering committee. They can convene rather quickly, because it's not something that, even if Holly were here, we could decide, because we need,
Yeah, not you.
it's a merged team, but we can
Yep.
certainly look at it.
Okay.
Okay? And then I'll inform the board of what and why happened as a result of looking again.
Are there any other questions? All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thanks, Craig. Is there a second? Thanks, Kate. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? I think we're all ayes so far. All right. Now, we are up to reports from administrators. Mr. Amon.
Okay, we'll start us off. First, I've just given us an update on course selection and the master scheduling. The course selection for students is complete. We are now in the process of starting the development of the master schedule. Brent, Kim, myself, and Jason have had many conversations about this. The high school master schedule is a very intricate web of courses and, class sizes and, student selections, and it's just very complicated. And our goal, when we get all said and done, is to be able to offer the students everything that they want to take, all the opportunities that they want to take advantage of, and do it in the most efficient and effective way for the district. So there's been a lot of conversations. Brent, Tim, myself, and Jason have all been, having conversations, deliberating over it. Right now, the first step of the master schedule is always building the junior high schedule first. So grades 7 and 8 get done. That's what Jason's doing right now. In that, we're trying to build those modules that we talked about, some of those exploratory modules. Once that's done, then we can get a little bit of a peek of, okay, this, what teacher availability is for the high school schedule. And that'll drive some of our decisions on where we go from there. So
it's always complicated. Maybe this year it's just a little bit more complicated. But our goal is to make sure that kids have all their needs are met when it comes to what we offer them for the courses. And also our goal is always to let teachers know at least what courses they're going to be teaching next year so they can prepare, particularly for those teachers that might be teaching something new. It's only fair to them they have time to prepare for that. So we're moving along with that, and I'll keep you posted. Algebra 1, the next generation math standards, the Algebra 1 Regents is being administered June 4th. Anytime we have the new standards and a Regents exam that's tied to it is always early. So with that comes the challenge of trying to continue with a regular school day for all the other students not taking the Regents. Most times we can make it happen. Sometimes we can't, as it was with the English Regents this past January. Just so many accommodations were needed, and we need to make sure faculty and staff's available to offer those accommodations. I'm going to be talking to Kim here very shortly just to see what the accommodations the students need and figure out whether we're going to have. My hope is, and I anticipate we will be able to stay in session if at all possible, but I can't say for certain until we sit down and really look at the details of that. Now, if you're unfortunate enough as a school district to be chosen as the early scoring district, which we were, now I have to build in, by the end of that week of testing, teachers to score those exams and submit them to the state during the school week, during regular instructional time, which takes away from teachers' availability to teach classes. It challenges our substitutes. Shortage is just so, it's unfortunate. We've only been selected once before, and then I saw this one come through. I'm like, great, but we'll do it. We'll manage. We always have, and those are things we're going to work through. And by the end of it, we'll have Regents exams administered early, some of them early, and get them scored and finish the end of the school year, because it's hard to believe, but it's almost here. So. And lastly, just thank you to the PTSA. It's been years and years, over a decade since we've had the after prom party. So it's a tremendous amount of work and planning and preparation, and to take that on it's a big challenge, and we really appreciate you offering that for our students, as well as pages for the ages. I didn't have that on my report, but they're going to fund that so that our seniors can take books over to the elementary school kids, the kindergarten kids, to read to them and then let them keep the book. That's very kind. So thank you.
Do you remember when the very first after prom party?
I do remember that.
Do you?
Yeah, do you?
I thought you might. Yeah. It's exciting, but it's bad.
Yeah.
Excellent. One quick question on the course selection. I know at the strategy event, it was floated to do like every other year classes. Is that something you guys do now, or it used to be in practice?
We do it for, one that comes to mind right now is graphic design and photography for art.
Yeah.
So we do that. We haven't had to, but that's certainly something we're going to have to consider doing more
And music. I think Gary offers some
of. Music
engineering,
theory
opposite.
and,
Yep.
yeah. So, yeah, it's something that's going to have to be, we're just going to think creatively about that stuff. What can we alternate so that kids have the opportunity to take?
Right, because if you're looking at classes for like 10% of the class, that's 6 kids. So if you get the top 10% of 2 classes, now at least you have 12 kids, right? Which makes more sense logistically. Cool. No Mr. Ahart this evening, but we have his reporter. Class of 2038. That's crazy talk. I did have a question on, and Kim, I think you were in on this week, or maybe it's the lottery. Is there any allowance or waiting for need, or is it straight up?
I don't know. I don't know what the current rule is. He's been taking the lead on that for pre-K.
Mr. Gelder.
So I wanted to
speak to you a little bit about a service that the district subscribes to through Central New York Regional Information Center, CINIREC in Syracuse. They are one of the RICs throughout the state that help districts with all manner of things, but for my department, we are part of the Data Privacy Security and Security Service, which offers us a number of resources. We have a variety of tools that they offer us to help us manage some assets and manage our EdLaw 2D agreements, but they also are really, they're kind of my first go-to when I have a question or a problem or something that is of concern, because they are able to see a lot of what's going on in the region already. So if something is coming up here, it may be coming up somewhere else. They offer monthly and sometimes bi-monthly meetings for us to just stay ahead of what's happening in terms of security posture and security setting statewide, what schools are seeing. They send out weekly updates so we can be kind of ahead of the game on things that we have to watch out for, which is great. It's a great service. And one of the things that the RICs, the regional information systems throughout the state, have been pushing the state technology department to do is join or start, be part of a regional consortium of states in the Northeast to sign on to privacy agreements for educational services. So currently, when EdLaw 2D was established, it required each district to reach out to every vendor that gets student information and have their legal department sign our privacy agreement. We then sign it. We have to read all of their privacy agreements and make sure they're in compliance. And technically, we are supposed to also make sure that the vendors are in compliance. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to go to Google and ask to see if they're in compliance with their privacy agreement, but that's the requirement from the state. And from the beginning, everybody said, why are we not doing this as a state so that schools can opt into that? And then the state can do the heavy lifting on that, and we can just pick from the approved list of things that the state says are in agreement with the privacy policy that all the schools are doing anyway. And now, 5 or 6 years later, they are starting to do that. So hopefully by this time next year, that will be implemented fully. The RICs, CINIREC is getting the first view of that now, and we'll be rolling it out between now and probably, my guess would be in about 6 months, we'll start to see the ability to see a list of privacy or companies that agree to the New York State privacy agreement, and they're in that consortium. It obviously makes sense for companies to only work with a few states or one group of states instead of trying to work with all these individual districts as well. So it's a much needed change, and I really appreciate their work on this and New York State's work to kind of fix this little glitch that everybody saw coming, but they didn't see in the law. So I appreciate that, and it'll help to sort of lighten the burden. And for teachers, I think more importantly, they'll be able to easily see what other districts are using already. And they don't have to come to me and say, hey, can we use this? And I have to say, no, well, not yet. And then we wait 2 or 3 weeks, and sometimes they say yes, and sometimes they say no. So it will streamline that tremendously. E-rate, the FCC provides funds to all districts for broadband connections and high-speed internet. And we are going to be using that to replace the access points throughout the district. That replacement hardware is not so much needed for the upgrade. Well, it will be a nice upgrade, but because of the hardware that we have, it requires a license, and those licenses can be expensive. But the purchase of this upgrade allows us to purchase 7 years of licensing. So we'll be able to use these funds to have our upgraded Wi-Fi for the next 7 years. And if equipment breaks, an access point dies, we can always replace it and the license stays with us. So it's a really great use of those funds, and are not gonna impact the district funds, tech funds. So it's great, federal funds for that. And then CBT, computer-based testing, started last week, and went off very well. I wanna thank Eva Collier she did a lot of the heavy lifting for organizing classes and making sure accommodations were put in correctly and double checking to make sure accommodations were in and making sure that students were in the right places and kind of organizing the classrooms and figuring out who's gonna cover what. So she did a great job with that. And she and I kind of tag teamed, I helped with the tech. She did all the coordinating and we were able to manage that pretty smoothly last week. And as long as all the tech works in the World Wide Web, we will have a nice success. I'll be able to say the same thing about math next week. So next week is math, and once those two big hurdles are done, science will be easy because it's just 2 grade levels. So it was a very smooth computer-based testing week.
Excellent. Thank you.
Welcome.
Next, we have Holly's report. Mrs. Nichols.
All right, the top section I just have mentioned, possible next steps with the Reading League. And I had mentioned earlier at the budget meeting, BOCES, so TST BOCES as a region is trying to find ways to offer events that we can then provide as shares to districts through the partnership with the Reading League. So that'll be happening this summer. Right now, there are 3 school districts in our region that have partnerships with the Reading League, but all the other districts keep hearing us talking about it. And so I think there's a momentum that's growing. So that's exciting. And I would thank Pete and Sarah. I know they've been working on the master schedule for the elementary school as well as getting input from the teachers on how could they tweak the schedule to be able to provide, we already have intervention, but how to offer it so that it doesn't conflict with another from one grade level to the other. So we have all hands on deck, just so that we can try to implement even more of what we've learned from the Reading League next year. So that's exciting. I just want to thank them for the work that they're doing. And the literacy briefs. Wayne has been meeting with a group of teachers here in the junior senior high school to move that work forward. Wayne and I have met talking about what are the right next steps in using the information from state ed, and not necessarily aligned to the literacy briefs, but I do have to mention what you talked about with the work you and Jason are doing on the master schedule, because I think Brett and I probably asked a lot, and I just need to thank Wayne and Jason. You guys you tried to answer all of our questions and help us see and understand better. So I just want to say thank you for the work they're doing on that. And then special ed. So I hope that, and back up to the possible next steps with the Reading League. That last line shouldn't say simple of writing. It should be the simple view of writing, just as a correction. Yeah. Special education. So the information I presented is really just in response to some questions that have come up. The first one, last month I had shared our current numbers in special ed, and it prompted the question of what is our classification percentage? How does ours compare to other districts? So I pulled districts in our BOCES region and within our county. So keeping in mind that the schools in our county, Spencer Bennett's GST BOCES and the others are BT BOCES. And I apologize, I didn't figure out how to put the numbers on the bars on the first graph, but I did on the second one, and I forgot to go back and add them. But just as a reference point, if you see our number, and this is again from, this is 22-23 data. And I have ours at 20% of the state at the far right at 19. But the tick marks, Newfield 22-23, that would be 23%. And one thing I do want to point out, I didn't know this until after I put the board report together. Jenny Coco, who's our data coordinator through CineRec, she pointed out when you go to that website, the p12niced.gov, this data is from the first tab of just our enrollment data. If you drill into the special ed data, the numbers are different. They don't match up for the 22-23 year. Jenny and I believe this makes sense. We compared it. Enrollment numbers do not include kindergarten. Special ed data includes kindergarten, is what we think. It's our theory. We don't know for sure, but if you were to go in and look at those sites, you'll see the numbers they're not the same on the state ed website. So she wanted me to make sure that I was aware of that, and I pointed that out. And questions, I guess, for the first chart. I'll stop talking.
I guess, is there any comparison between CSE chairs of other schools to sort of, are you all evaluating by the same bar? I don't know how that.
So we all live by the same regulations, but every CSE team is comprised of different people. Preschool is different in that you have a formula that you have to follow. So you have to show that there's a need that's at least 2 standard deviations below the mean, and whether occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech. School age isn't. Years ago, there was a discrepancy model that you could use a full scale IQ compared to what their achievement scores were, a student's achievement score. But then response to intervention came in and the rules changed. And now you have to show as a school district that this is the need in a general ed classroom. And this is what we'll try for an intervention, and we have to progress monitor and we have to track it. And if there isn't any progress, then we can show that data to say there was very little response to the intervention, and then a committee could classify. I shared this information with Sarah, Amanda, so Sarah Loomis, CPSE chair, Amanda, our administrative assistant, Lisa Hall, and Abby Holmes, the two school psychologists. And we started at just making up a list of questions of what are we wondering about and how can we get more information. That happens to be one of them. Sarah had a little bit of insight because she has service providers from the county that sit on multiple school district committees that she feels like she could get some feedback from. Otherwise, maybe when we look at a student transferring into the district, and we might look at their IEP and think, they gave them a lot, or they didn't give them what we think we should provide them. And we may send students to other districts and they may look at our IEPs and say the same thing. So it isn't a clear-cut formula. I don't ever want us, we don't want to be in a situation where we've over-identified. But I also we all want to make sure that we're providing our kids with support when they need it too. So, it's a balance, but that's, if you look just at numbers, but then I started going in, down the rabbit hole, and Jenny's helping me, because I'm wondering just by classification categories, or how does our intervention support help? The other interesting, we started noticing trends and patterns. I'll leave it at that because I don't want to say something publicly about another or compare us to somebody that it's just an I notice and an I wonder. Yeah.
That's fair.
And then the second graph was really in response to a question that came out of the strategic planning stakeholder meeting about, and I'll read it word for word because it doesn't sound right when I say it. But a question about how students with disability classification rates have changed as enrollment has declined. So I went back, pulled the enrollment data, back 10 years. So the top line is just the trend line. So in 2013-14, our total enrollment, 767 with 107 students classified. And so you can see total enrollment, that trend line is declining, where the trend line for our students that are classified has stayed pretty static there. And again, you know, we started asking questions and seeing patterns in the I notice, I wonders. And so that's what the data has. Any questions about that? Or things you're wondering about? I notice, I wonders. We could do a whole data meeting.
Kim, of our out-of-district students, do you know how many of them have a special ed classification?
When you say out of district,
So students
That
that
go
are paying
to-
tuition
oh,
that are coming
um,
in.
that are not living. I know of, off the top of my head, there's at least 3.
He needs doing percentages next year.
Are you doing percentages?
Oh, I did the same, so yeah.
Oh, no.
It's, I mean, it's,
You can't give an engineer numbers.
Yeah.
You know what?
You can't give an engineer numbers and not expect me
to do something.
Oh, well, from now on, when I have a report of numbers, I'm gonna take your phone away from me.
Thank you for looking into that.
Yeah.
It's interesting stuff.
It is, and, you know, we're gonna keep asking questions of our own, you know, of the department, just to make sure that, like I said, we don't wanna over-identify, but finding the balance, and making sure that we're supporting students within the gen ed classroom as much as possible with interventions before we go to classification. So, anyway, and then on the back, I don't believe I added any updates to any of the current priorities. So, and I don't think I had, and I would give a shout out to Eva as well. I really appreciated the help with the computer-based testing and the testing modifications for the students that do have them. She was a huge help.
Thank you. Then you have Chris's report. The only thing I underlined is the parent and family engagement survey. Is there a way to
So we're going
Put that out
to,
there.
yep, we're going to, I think our plan was actually to send a message out this week, and then I think she and I both had some outside needs that needed to be taken care of, so. But yes, there will be a message blast of some sort, and Mr. Gelder knows that we're gonna be calling him to have him help us.
And Mr. Sutterby.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start by thanking the budget committee, and pretty much everything I put in my report, everyone who is here just heard me say, so I'm not gonna reiterate it all. But for those watching at home, May 14th, please come and we'll give the budget presentation. I'm really very proud of the budget, and I'm proud of myself, although I did put a lot of time in on it. I'm proud of the team, and I wanna give a special thanks to the board, and I'm not just brown nosing, I'm fortunate to have a board that asks good questions, gives good, thoughtful suggestions, and helps steers the budget process. So thank you. And then another shout out to our school business official, Christine Pierce. And I wish she was here to hear me say this. She's not only brilliant with the numbers and very resourceful in finding other ways to find revenue, make savings. She understands education. She was an educator. She was a principal. and she cares deeply, and that's a piece I wish more people knew, because she spends so much time in her office working that, and she hasn't taught in this district. If more people would get to know her, they'd love her too, and it's just something I wanted to share. Then jump to the strategic planning process. And thank you to the board and to everybody who came and was able to participate in the strategic planning meeting. It was very productive. Our goal was to have about 50 people there, and we had about 50. More invitations than that went out, and of course, we opened it up to anybody who could come. But the number was about right to have the people there really be heard, and they were. We were able to gather all that information. The administrative team has met twice since then to look at that data. And as I had already told the board, before the end of this school year, we'll have a finish, and I say finish, it's in quotes because it's not finished until you say it's finished, but a plan that we can present to you for one last look and adjustments to put a final strategic plan for the district that will serve as a reference point for everybody in the community on our website and have that published. Again, when I say finished, for people who still have more to say, it's never really finished. We still, invite your comments, concerns, and insights because we're constantly trying to do things better. And that's just our goal, better for our students and better for our community. So that's strategic planning. And then capital projects. Well, when I wrote this, and still as of today, we don't have state ed full approval, which puts us in a unique situation, but we were able to work through it. Until we have approval, we can't sign contracts and we can't get contractors lined up to do all the work that needs to get done this summer. But as you heard at the last board report last month, through cooperatives, and there's some really good cooperatives, we were able to engage with a company that's going to be ready, willing, and able, and came in with, put together a proposal that's within actually it's a little under what our projections of costs would be. We fully vetted them, and so we have a company for the roof. We also have one now for the site work. Jim and I not only talked to other districts that they work in, we went and saw their work over at Tioga, and again, they're approved by the state, so we will be ready to go for that. So that's the good news. The not as good news is there's work to be done on the inside, and if we were to get approval tomorrow, it would not be prudent to try to go out to bid this summer. All of the contractors who handle this type of work will already have their jobs lined up. We won't get many bids, and the ones that we get will be companies who will put in at a price that they know they'll make a lot of money. They don't have the workers right now, but they say, hey, if Candor can pay X number of dollars, we'll find workers. Well then, not always, but what we can expect, what's predictable, is you'll get good workers, not great craftsmen, because they're people recently hired. So what I'm telling the budget or the board we should do to preserve our capital budget is wait on going out to bid for the work that's done inside, which means a delay to the hallway by the auditorium and a delay to the classrooms that are now we consider the middle school wing. It still will happen, but we'll just go out to bid a little later. Any questions about that? I know it's kind of a mouthful, but that's the reality of where we are. We're still okay. We're still, sound to be able to come in under budget, but not in the time frame I had hoped.
Is there an expiration date on the approval that shall complete the work within X months or anything like that, or is there any?
No, we'd be under more of a time crunch if it was just a 100K capital outlay project. We'd have to complete it in the year, but we have the time to get this done. We can go out to bid, and what the plan is go out to bid mid-year for the work to be completed after school's out the following year. If some miracle happens and things align and we could get the work done, or at least started over vacations and have more of it done, we would do that. I guess the short answer to your question, there probably is a deadline somewhere in there, but we have time to do this, even if it takes another year. And then if we can get it done sooner rather than later, that's what we want to do. But we're gonna make sure it's done well and done at a reasonable price. That's the first those are the first priorities.
Even on the is there limitations on the cooperatives too? Like, do they expire at some point?
Oh, they probably do, but those will have lined up, and that work will get done, this summer.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we can't hold them up to,
Right.
you know, for a year, but
So it's only the interior pieces.
it's only the interior pieces that are gonna have to wait. Okay,
Summer.
so, yeah, I know. And again, it's out of our hands, it's in state ed's hands, so. It's not like we submitted our plans to like, I mean, just things are taking longer at state ed. And then our 100K project that does have to be completed this year, we did take bids, earlier this month, April 16th. And we got a good bid from Bowen's for the site work, and asking the board for permission for me to engage with Bowen's. We got 3 bids for that, and theirs was considerably lower, $36,460 to do the trench and put in the septic tank and run the lines, all the outside work. With the interior work, which are just some controls, that was a bit of a surprise. Jim Wintermute and then Mike James, who we met from King and King, we estimated by comparing other similar jobs that we would be, right around 40,000, in the 40-something thousand. We didn't really anticipate going much above 50 if that happened with the low bid. And we only got 1 bid, and it came in high, and in our opinion, too high. So what I'm recommending to the board is that I don't engage with them right now. King is working with them to get a detailed explanation of why their price came in where it did, and see if we can help them find some savings for us. Worst case scenario, we can change without needing state ed approval for this 100K, and we still have to do some interior work. These controls, Jim is saying, they could wait till the next project if they had to. We'd still have to do some other interior work. So I may be coming back with a more favorable answer from the contractor, or I may be coming back to ask you, can we do this interior work instead of that interior work and still get it done within the year? Does that all make, again, it's a mouthful, but it's been complicated.
The interior work isn't tied to the septic. Not like they're doing the
It's not.
septic, but they
It's
can't
not.
flush the toilet.
Exactly. Interior controls. That's a really good question. When they put the handles on the toilet.
Yeah.
But the septic's gonna be beautiful. No, they're not related. It's just anytime you do a 100K outline, there has to be work done inside the classrooms, or that affects classrooms. It can't just all be site work. You can tie them together in one project.
Thanks. Are there board comments? Okay, we're back to recognition of visitors.
I just have 2 comments. One of them I hadn't planned on saying today until Matt started talking about the privacy issues, and I'd like to be in the organization of that at the state level. Just to kind of, I think, just give a little more perspective on that. As a teacher, when you consider all the micro decisions that a teacher makes in any given day, a classroom teacher makes, to have the weight of this privacy stuff dealing with students, kind of moved along a little bit to some other organization. It's one of those things that, on a day-to-day basis doesn't add up. But when I think about my work, when I think about what teachers do, that concern is it's a present thing. And all those little present things that individually are not a big thing Nevertheless, they're a drag, to be quite blunt about it. It's a drag to have to think about that as a classroom teacher when it's not necessarily the most important thing to think about, and yet it is probably one of the most important things to think about. So it's just really a small illustration of the kind of thing that Matt's been describing. It's more than just, hey, there's this new thing and it's great and it's helpful for us. And when he says from the beginning, I would say more than 5 or 6 years, actually, teachers who've been concerned about technology and concerned about student privacy, I would say it's more like 12 or more years that has been something that teachers have really, probably more, have really needed to think about. So it's just an illustration of a small thing that matters. My second comment, so thanks, Matt. My second comment is again, just about some retirements. In your consent agenda, you approved another retirement today, another retirement today and last month, 2 others. So I'm just gonna read what I wrote because I think that's easier for me. In February, I spoke about 4 teachers who chose to retire and in turn referred to them as kind of bricks in the foundation of this school. Between March and this meeting today, you've accepted the retirements of 3 more educators at the high school, John Benjamin, Kelly Tongate, and Laura Koroluk. And Laura is the longest serving teacher in our district today. Again, I ask you to consider, not just in celebrating their work and service to the district, but also to consider soberly the meaning of their departures. I can assure you that all of these choices by these 3 teachers and the 4 before them were made with some reticence, as all of them consider their work with our teenagers a fundamental part of their daily life, not just the job that they go to. Candor boards of education have always been supportive of everyone who works here, educators, staff, everyone. All 7 of our retirees continue to deserve your thanks, as much as they are thankful for the privilege to work with the very kids that they have taught, the kids that they've guided, and the kids that they've helped in their decades here. We will miss them. I use that analogy or that metaphor of bricks in the foundation because when you work in a school, as in many other places, when someone retires, life goes on for everybody else. And yet there's still something about their presence that still remains. I like to call it a brick, other people might call it a shadow, I don't know, but their presence is still felt, even though they're not necessarily here, and even though we may even forget their names. And even though we may move on and someone else fills that role in an exceptional way as well. And I think these 7 teachers really fit that bill in a way that is that I think is very serious for me as their representative, but serious for us as a community. So, okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think with that, we can go enjoy. It's getting colder, but it's still sunny, so I'll call it a lovely evening. Adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Can I get the CSD?
Oh, yeah.